He used to think humiliation was loud, like someone shouting your name in a crowded room and laughing when you turn around. Turns out, real humiliation is quiet. It's a soft smile someone gives you when they've already decided you don't matter. The night it started, the dorm smelled like cheap beer and vanilla candles, the kind people light when they want a mess to feel like a party. Someone had dragged a Bluetooth speaker into the common room, fairy lights were taped crookedly along the walls, and a circle of second-year students sat on the floor like we were still kids pretending adulthood was optional. He hadn't planned to join. He was tired, my head hurt, and honestly, I just wanted to shower and crawl into bed. But when 6 people grab your wrists at once, laughing, saying come on, don't be boring, you stop resisting. You smile, because smiling is easier than explaining why you don't want to be seen. Truth or dare? A stupid game. That's what I told myself. The bottle spun, bubbling, catching the light, and then it slowed. Stop. Pointed at me. I remember someone saying my name, stretched out like a joke. Truth or dare? I chose dare without thinking. That was my first mistake. The room erupted, cheers bouncing off the walls, and someone leaned forward with that grin people get when they already know they're about to enjoy your discomfort. Kiss, row and hail. Used like that. No build-up. No hesitation. Rowan sat across from me, leaning back against the couch, arms crossed, face unreadable as always. It was the kind of guy people described with words like disciplined, untouchable, dangerous in a quiet way. Top of the class. Perfect scores. No scandals. No dating rumors that ever stuck. They called him restrained. Cold. Off limits. He stood up anyway, telling myself it was just a game, just a stupid moment that would be forgotten by morning. He walked toward him, heart pounding, knees unsteady, and leaned in, aiming for his cheek. He wasn't trying to prove anything. He just wanted it over. He didn't move. Didn't flinch. Didn't smile. And then, right before my lips could touch his skin, he tilted his head slightly and said, almost gently, sorry. Not appropriate right now. That was all. The room froze for half a second. Then laughter exploded. Whistles. Someone clapped. Someone else groaned like it was the best scene they'd watched all week. He stepped back, heat flooding my face, my chest tightening in a way that made it hard to breathe. And that's when I saw it. A phone held up, screen glowing, comment scrolling faster than I could read. Of course it's not appropriate. The main girl is sitting right next to him. Side characters shouldn't they get confused about their role? She really thought she had a chance. That last one hit hardest, because I hadn't thought I had a chance. He hadn't thought anything. He just existed in the wrong place, at the wrong time. He sat back down and grabbed a beer, drinking it in one go even though I hated the taste. The cold did nothing to numb the burning behind my eyes. Rowan didn't look at me. Not once. He stayed exactly as he was, calm, detached, like nothing had happened. Someone leaned over and whispered, "You okay?" He smiled and said, "Yeah. I'm used to it." That part was true. He was used to being the girl in the background. The one people talked about when they needed contrast. The before. The comparison. The almost. What I wasn't used to was realizing, all at once, that everyone else had already agreed on the story, and I wasn't the protagonist. Later that night, the party dissolved into smaller groups, laughter fading into tired murmurs. He tried to leave quietly, but my legs betrayed me halfway down the hall. The beer hit harder than I expected, and the world tilted. A hand caught my arm. Mint. Glenn swap. Something sharp and cold. Rowan. You're not steady, he said, voice low, not unkind, just factual. Come on. He didn't argue. He didn't have the energy. He walked me upstairs to the restricted floor, the one reserved for scholarship students and academic elites, like intelligence needed its own gated community. His room was neat to the point of being sterile. No photos. No clutter. Just books, a desk, and a bed that looked like it had never been slept in. Take a shower, he said, handing me a towel. Warm water helps. He wanted to say something sharp. Something sarcastic. Something that would give me back a little dignity. Instead, I nodded and locked myself in the bathroom. That was when I cried. Quietly. The kind of crying that don't shake your body, just leaks out slowly, like something broken you don't have the tools to fix. When I came out, wrapped in the towel, dizzy and exhausted, the room spun again. He took one step and stumbled forward. Rowan caught me automatically. He grabbed his shirt to steady myself. For a second, neither of us moved. He looked down at me, eyes dark, jaw tight, like he was holding something back. And then, without warning, he leaned in and kissed me. Not rough. Not rushed. Not gentle either. It was controlled, restrained, but charged with something sharp and dangerous, like tension that had been cold too long. When he pulled away, his breath was uneven. "Don't tell anyone," he said. I nodded, heart racing, and left as fast as I could, afraid that if I stayed another second, I'd lose whatever composure I had left. For a few hours, I let myself believe it meant something. That maybe I wasn't invisible. That maybe he wasn't as indifferent as he pretended. He was wrong. The next morning, my phone buzzed non-stop. An anonymous group chat. A blurry photo. Two silhouettes. I guess that could have been anyone. Caption. Guess our perfect golden boy isn't they so restrained after all. And then a message underneath from a user named Snow White. That's me. We spent the night together. He stared at the screen, hands shaking. The room felt too small. Too loud. Too full of air that didn't belong to me. Snow White wasn't me. It was Elise Carter. She didn't answer my calls. Used send one text. Sorry. Opportunities don't knock twice. That was the moment something inside me went quiet. Not broken. Not angry. Used, settled. By noon, the campus forums were on fire. So much for self-control. Poor girl, always playing the supporting role. At least she knows where she stands now. He read every word. He let them burn. He let them carve themselves into me, not because I believed them, but because I needed to understand how easily a story could be rewritten when the right person held the pen. Rowan didn't reach out. Not once. And somewhere between the humiliation and the silence, I realized something that would change everything later. I wasn't weak because I stayed quiet. He stayed quiet because I was watching. And that was only the beginning. He didn't cry again after that morning. Not because it didn't hurt, but because crying felt like agreeing with the version of me they already decided on. The girl who got too close, misunderstood her place, then quietly disappeared so the main story could continue uninterrupted. Classes went on like nothing had happened. People still complained about exams, still laughed too loudly in the cafeteria, still walked past me in the halls with expressions that hovered somewhere between pity and satisfaction. The difference was subtle, but I felt it everywhere. Conversations paused when I entered a room. Phones tilted slightly away from my face. Whispers softened but didn't stop. Rowan Hale became a rumor with legs. Some said he and Elise had been seeing each other for months. Some said it was just a hookup. Some said they finally snapped after years of pretending he was above it all. No one asked him. No one needed to. Silence, apparently, was confirmation enough. He still sat 2 rows ahead of me in algorithms, back straight, notes precise, eyes focused on the board like the world had never tilted. He didn't look back. Not once. And every time I told myself I was glad for that, my chest tightened anyway. The first time he showed emotion wasn't for me. It was a Tuesday afternoon, the kind where the light turns everything slightly gold and the air smells like dust and coffee. I was in the dining hall with Nathan Brooks, laughing over something stupid they said about our professor's obsession with recursion. Nathan was easy to be around. Warm. Present. He listened without scanning the room for someone more important. We were mid-conversation when I felt it, that sudden shift, like the air had thickened. Rowan stood a few feet away, holding a tray he clearly wasn't using, eyes locked on the space between Nathan and me. His jaw was tight. His knuckles white. He didn't say anything. He just stared. Nathan noticed first. He leaned closer and whispered, "Is that the guy everyone's talking about?" He shrugged, trying to keep my tone light. "Guess so." Rowan turned and walked out without touching his food. Later that evening, he found me. He was heading back to the dorm when a hand wrapped around my wrist and pulled me into the shadowed side of the building. The movement was sudden enough that I gasped. "What are you doing?" he asked, voice low, controlled, dangerous. He tried to pull free. "You don't get to ask me that." He stepped closer, crowding my space, eyes dark with something I hadn't seen before. "You seemed pretty comfortable with him. He laughed, sharp and tired. You mean the way you seemed comfortable letting everyone think you slept with Elise? Silence. That was answer enough. He looked at him then, really looked, and saw it clearly. The anger wasn't about me. It was about control. About losing the ability to decide how the story went. You don't own me, I said quietly. And you don't get to be silent when it's convenient and possessive when it's not. His hand loosened. For a second, something like uncertainty crossed his face. Then it hardened again. Be careful, he said. People talk. He smiled. Let them. That was the night I disappeared. Not physically, at first. He still went to class. Still submitted assignments. Still smiled when required. But online, I vanished. No posts. No comments. No late night scrolling through threads that pretended to analyze me while stripping me down to a stereotype. 7 days. That's how long it took for the noise to start fading. During those 7 days, I cut my hair. Shoulder length. Clean lines. No softness designed to make others comfortable. He traded oversized sweaters for crisp white shirts, the kind that made me stand straighter without trying. He reread every comment that had ever hurt me. Every assumption. Every joke disguised as observation. And then I did something he'd avoided for a long time. He opened my laptop and stopped pretending I didn't know exactly how this worked. Most people didn't know I was a computer science major because I didn't advertise it. He didn't look like what they expected. Soft voice. Neutral clothes. Todo polite. He let them underestimate me because it made life quieter. This time, I used it. IP traces. Login patterns. Posting schedules. The same mistakes, repeated by different usernames. Elise hadn't been careful. She didn't think she needed to be. He compiled everything into a single folder. Clean. Organized. Impossible to dismiss as coincidence. Then I submitted it anonymously to the Student Conduct Board. The meeting was scheduled for Friday afternoon. He walked into that room like someone who wasn't asking permission anymore. Elise was already there, seated near the center, hands folded in her lap, expression calm but tight. She smiled when she saw me, the kind of smile that said we both know this is theater. The board members shuffled papers. Someone cleared their throat. I didn't look at Rowan until he spoke. Why are you doing this? He asked quietly, not meeting my eyes. I turned to him then, and for the first time, I didn't soften my voice. Because I'm tired of being quiet for your convenience. The evidence spoke louder than I ever could. Screenshots. Timelines. Logs. Elise tried to laugh it off at first. Then she blamed the hack. Then she said it was a misunderstanding. IP addresses don't misunderstand. The room went still. By the time the meeting ended, no one was smiling. Elise left first, face pale, heels clicking too fast against the floor. Rowan stayed seated, staring at the table like it had betrayed him. Outside, someone clapped. Tonse. Awkward. Then another. It wasn't the applause. It was disbelief. By evening, the forums had turned. What, so she didn't tell her? Elise made all of it up? Guess we owe someone an apology. He didn't read much of it. He didn't need the validation. The truth had weight now. That was enough. Rowan tried to talk to me that night. He didn't answer. 3 days later, he snapped. Someone posted a photo of me and Nathan eating lunch, nothing scandalous, just two people smiling. Rowan saw it. Everyone did. He found me outside the library, fingers digging into my arm, eyes wild. You did this on purpose, he said. He stared at him, amazed at how little he still understood. He lived my life. That's not a performance. He slammed his fist into the wall beside my head. The sound echoed down the hall. Someone screamed. That was the moment I stopped loving him. Not because he was angry. But because he'd never once been brave enough to choose me publicly, yet felt entitled to break things privately. That night, his outburst made the rounds. Golden Boy loses control. Guess restraint was just an act. He watched the comments scroll past and felt nothing. 2 days later, I got a message from an unknown number. If you think this makes you the hero, you're wrong. He deleted it. The final blow came from somewhere unexpected. Nathan asked to meet. He looked uncomfortable, twisting his hands around a folder. There is something you should know, he said. I opened it. Birth records. Family trees. We're related. Cousins. Distant, but real. He laughed, because at that point, the universe had lost all subtlety. So all that drama, I said. For nothing. I smiled, relief. Guess so. When the truth came out, the narrative collapsed entirely. No forbidden affair. No betrayal. Used assumptions stacked on assumptions until they crushed the wrong person. Elise was suspended. Scholarships revoked. Invitations rescinded. She left campus quietly, no dramatic goodbye, no final post. Rowan didn't disappear. Not immediately. He showed up at my apartment one night, rain soaking his jacket, eyes hollow. He was wrong, he said. He looked at him for a long time before answering. You were silent. That hurt more than any lie. He nodded. That was his apology. He closed the door. And for the first time in months, the quiet felt like peace. The campus looked the same after everything burned down. Sammy stone paths. Sammy trees shedding leaves like nothing personal had ever happened beneath them. Sammy clock tower chiming every hour, steady and indifferent. It was unsettling how normal everything felt, like the world refused to acknowledge that something fundamental had shifted. But I had changed. And once you notice that, you can never unsee it. People were kinder now. Not loudly, not dramatically. Just small adjustments, doors held a second longer, smiles that didn't flicker away, conversations that didn't stop when I approached. Apologies floated around me like fragile offerings. I'm sorry for what happened. I shouldn't have believed it. You didn't deserve that. He accepted them with a nod, not because they erased anything, but because refusing them would mean staying tied to the version of me who needed justice more than peace. Rowan stopped coming to classes. At first, it was noticeable. Whispers again, but different this time. Concerned. Speculative. Then it faded. It became what I had once been, an absence people briefly discussed before moving on from. I didn't miss him the way I thought I would. I missed the idea of him. The potential. The fantasy of what he could have been if silence hadn't always been his default response to discomfort. One evening, weeks later, I ran into him at the edge of campus. He looked thinner. Less precise. Like someone who'd lost the structure that once held him upright. It didn't touch me this time. Didn't crowd my space. It just stood there, hands in his pockets, rain misting the air between us. You look different, he said. So do you. He smiled weakly. Guess that's fair. We walked for a while without speaking. No accusations. No explanations. Used the sound of our footsteps and the distant hum of traffic. He used to think loving someone meant protecting them, he said finally. Keeping things quiet. Controlled. He stopped walking. And that's where you went wrong. He nodded. He was afraid. Of losing what I had. Of not being enough if people really looked. I studied his face, searching for the boy they once trusted with my unguarded thoughts. He found traces of him. But traces weren't enough anymore. You didn't lose me because of fear, I said. You lost me because you let fear make decisions for you. Silence followed. Not the heavy kind. The honest one. I don't expect forgiveness, he said. He just wanted you to know. You see it now. He believed him. And still, it didn't change anything. I hope you grow from this, I said. Truly. Then I turned and walked away. No dramatic music. No final glance over my shoulder. Used a clean ending to a chapter that had already overstayed its welcome. Graduation came quietly. No scandal. No headlines. Just caps in the air and parents crying into their phones. Nathan waved at me from across the lawn, grinning like we'd survived something ridiculous together, which, in a way, we had. After the ceremony, as the crowd thinned, I sat alone on the steps of the library, the same place where everything had unraveled months before. He opened my laptop. A notification blinked. Offer letter, full-time software engineer location, out-of-state start date, while I stared at the screen longer than necessary, letting the reality settle. A new city. A new life. One where no one knew my past unless I chose to share it. He accepted. That night, I wrote one final post. Not an explanation. Not a defense. Just a reflection. There is a moment when you realize the story people tell about you isn't yours to carry. You don't need to correct every lie. You just need to outgrow the room it was told in. I logged out for the last time. On my final day on campus, Elise's name came up in conversation. Someone mentioned she-they transfer. Someone else said she-they deleted everything. Her digital footprint wiped clean like it had never existed. I felt no triumph. No satisfaction. Only distance. She was part of a version of me that no longer needed villains to define itself. As I dragged my suitcase toward the gate, my phone buzzed. A message from Rowan. I'm learning how to be quiet without being cruel. I hope you're happy. I didn't they reply. Happiness, they learned, didn't they? Require witnesses. Years later, in a different city, with a job that challenged me and an apartment that felt like mine in every sense, someone once asked about my past. You seem grounded, they said. Like you've already lived through something big. I smiled. Maybe I have. They waited for more. For a story. For drama. I didn't give it to them. Some stories aren't meant to be retold. They're meant to be survived. And as I closed my laptop that night, city lights stretching endlessly beyond the window, I understood something I wish I'd known sooner. You don't win by being believed. You win by becoming someone who no longer needs to be. Motto. What started as a quiet college laugh slowly unraveled into a test of identity, trust, and self-worth. This story follows a young woman who believes she has found safety in love and belonging on campus, only to discover how fragile reputation can be when silence, fear, and manipulation take control. A single misunderstanding grows into rumors, and rumors turn into judgment. Friends hesitate. Strangers decide who she is without ever asking her name. And the person she trusts the most chooses comfort over courage. As the pressure builds, she faces an impossible choice: stay quiet to protect others, or speak up and risk losing everything she worked for. What follows isn't a clean victory or public redemption, but a deeply human journey through doubt, betrayal, and resilience. Each confrontation peels back another layer of truth, revealing how easily people confuse calmness for guilt and how quickly empathy disappears when a story feels more entertaining than the truth. Through moments of quiet humor, painful reflection, and emotional confrontation, she learns that being believed is not the same as being free. Real strength comes from reclaiming your voice, redefining your boundaries, and choosing growth over revenge. By the end, the story shifts beyond campus walls into a new life, a new city, and a hard-earned sense of peace. Not everyone apologizes. Not every wound closes neatly. But healing doesn't require permission from the people who hurt you. This is not just a story about betrayal. It's about surviving being misunderstood, letting go without bitterness, and becoming someone who no longer needs validation to move forward.